Welcome back to Red vs. Blue episode summaries. Today, I'll be doing episode 25, Last Words. As the Warthog continued firing along the wall, slowly heading towards Sarge, Simmons alerted Griff and Donut that they had to do something, meaning to stop the Warthog. Donut took it as in they should bet on Sarge's possessions, calling dibs on his armor. Tucker then informed Church he was about to pull the wire, as Sarge informed Griff to tell Lopez he forgave him if they ever saw him again, stating that Lopez was still like a son to him even if his body kills him. Griff rebutted that he thought Simmons was like his son, leading Sarge to apologize to Simmons, stating he meant him no offense, but him and Lopez simply understood each other better. Simmons and Griff teamed up to retort that statement made absolutely no sense, as Lopez refused to speak English. They believed he left the first chance he had, and now he was presumably trying to kill him since the switch was on his body. Sarge knew all this, but shrugged it off, simply calling Lopez a little rascal. Meanwhile, Tucker finally yanked the wire, ending the beeping entirely, causing Church to practically moan in relief, cheering, "Oh God, yes, finally some peace and quiet. I thought that beeping was going to drive me crazy." Church's happiness was short-lived, though, as he called attention to the fact that he couldn't move his legs. Meanwhile, back at Red Base, the yanking of the wire and end of the beeping also meant the end of the Warthog's self-driving mode, as it and its huge gun powered down right before it would have struck Sarge. Griff, commenting on how much of a close call that was, asked Sarge if he was okay, with Sarge disappointingly clarifying he was fine, just disappointed. Simmons assumed that meant Sarge was disappointed in what he said, clarifying he shouldn't stress about it as people say crazy things all the time when faced with their own mortality and potential death. Sarge corrected that he wasn't disappointed with what he said, but the fact that the Warthog quit, as he felt that he could have beat him in a fight. Griff, astounded with Sarge's stupidity, clarified if he really thought he could have beat the Warthog's huge-ass machine gun. Sarge responded by admitting that although the gun would have been a worthy opponent, he saw signs of weakness, also referring to them as cracks in the armor from it at the end. Griff simply retorted with all he needed to, which was that it was simply impossible to fight a machine gun, with Donut agreeing, only half sarcastically stating that although Sarge was tough, it was hard for anyone to stop hundreds of bullets with only their face. Sarge rebuttals with a somewhat fair point from his perspective, which is that, despite that, the Warthog was still the one that surrendered. Doc, now suddenly acting like a medical professional, claimed he'd seen situations like Sarge's before, stating how he just went through a traumatic ordeal, and this wave of disappointment and denial was his way of coping with stress. Griff laughed at the idea, questioning what Doc's way of coping with stress was. Doc vaguely responded that he had his own secret way that worked great for him, adding that the Warthog was in need of a thorough cleaning, trying to pretend that those things were unrelated. Back at the Blue Base, Church had begun ranting to Caboose, sarcastically, bitterly stating how great the situation was and thanking him for damaging his lower half. Caboose, genuinely trying to be helpful, stupidly suggested Church try walking it off, with Church bitterly rebutting that he can't move his legs, calling him a moron. Caboose acted like he understood this now, but immediately disproved this as his next suggestion was to try running. Tucker jumped in the conversation, questioning Church what the big deal was anyway, stating Church rarely ever used his legs anyway, citing how he's never heard of a man who asked for so many piggyback rides. Church defended himself, vaguely stating he was doing it for science. Caboose then gave a third suggestion, which was for Church to walk on his hands, adding how he could instead use his feet for the important stuff, such as high fives and eating sandwiches. Back at the Red Base, Simmons requested for Doc to back up the Warthog, sarcastically stating that he was sure Sarge enjoyed having his spine, which was under immense pressure from it still, pulverized into dust. Doc apologized, meaning to do as Simmons requested, but he instead accidentally drives forward, in quotes, causing Sarge to wince in pain, screaming the phrase, "Hot buttered lug nuts." Doc apologizes again, claiming he simply put it in the wrong gear. When he attempts to back up again, though, he drives forward again, causing Sarge so much pain he claims he lost his last kidney, sadly stating how he was saving it for a special occasion. Doc apologizes yet again, assuring the third time would be the charm, with Simmons, now aware that Doc was purposely hurting Sarge, demanded that Doc get out of the Warthog instantly, calling him Point Dexter. Doc tries yet another fake apology, claiming he was only trying to help, leading Griff to respond sarcastically that he must have got confused. But to him, it looked like he was savagely trying to kill their sergeant via ramming him repeatedly with a 1,000-pound kill-death machine. Griff continued his sarcasm by apologizing for getting confused, and giving Doc permission to continue, now knowing he was just trying to help. Doc was somehow almost convinced by this extremely long, sarcastic rant, asking for clarification if Griff was being for real, with Griff and Simmons simultaneously responding with yet another demand for Doc to jump out of the Warthog, in disbelief that Doc had to even ask for clarification. Back at Blue Base, Tucker had bent down to attempt to fix Church's legs, with Church instructing him to just start reattaching random wires, assuring he would let him know if he felt something. Tucker did just that, questioning as he went if Church felt anything, with Church denying, with Caboose trying to talk to him during this process, particularly about how eating ice cream too fast hurts his brain, presumably being too dumb to know the term brain freeze. The sound of a Mexican guitar plays in the background of the episode, to signify trouble coming. Just then, Caboose abruptly stops talking about ice cream, spotting Griff, Simmons, and Doc standing right outside the blue base. He, panicked, stutters while trying to inform Church and Tucker, who both can't see the Reds due to Church being turned the other way and Tucker being bent down. Church, annoyed by Caboose's ice cream talk and his stuttering, cuts off Caboose before he can inform them, screaming in anger and disbelief how in the short time he's known Caboose, he's called his girlfriend a slut, blown him up with a tank, and shot him in the head, and paralyzed him from the waist down, referencing the entire series up to this point, begging him to repay him a little by shutting up for once, shouting louder than ever. Simmons then tries to get the Blues' attention, but then notices Tucker bent down by Church/Lopez's dick, whoever you want to call it, getting the dirty idea, questioning in disgust what the hell they were doing.